welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have an artist named Doogie White. I had the privilege of talking to Doogie from overseas. I believe he's in the UK at this point right now. We had a really great conversation over the weekend, which was a lot of fun. We dug deep on his past music through the number of bands that he's been in, as well as his double album that he just released, which includes As Yet Untitled, a re-release of this album. We'll get into why he released the album, as well as the new music he included on the double album with covers of other artists, that sort of thing as well. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Before we do, I will give a brief update of my weekend. I had the opportunity to get out of the heat and go to the city, stay with a friend in the city, and it was nice because the heat in Napa was it was hot, let's say, and so going to the city was a great break from that. I visited a friend and we went to this place called the Emporium, which is a cross between an arcade and a bar. He likes going to it. We took Muni. I hadn't been on Muni in, I can't tell you how many years it's been since I've been on Muni, but we took Muni down to the Castro and then walked from the Castro to the Emporium, which was probably at least a mile, I would say. This place was hopping. I mean, there was a line to get in. You had to wait, a little bit, and then you get in. There are lots of arcade games. We only played a couple. We hung out. There's big screens with a movie that's playing, as well as the screen off to the side that gave an update on the Giants A's game. I was kind of interested in that because representing Bay Area baseball, and then we played a couple games. We played basketball and air hockey. And this is the sort of place that apparently doesn't update their games, or they get games discounted. The score trackers on both games did not work. So we had to manually keep track on basketball. I won the first round and my buddy John won the second round of basketball. And then a little bit later, we went and played a round of air hockey. Or shall I say a half a round, because we took over for these two gals, and I think we took mid their game because they didn't know when it was over or they were done. And John put in 2 tokens, but I think it may have taken 4 to actually play around. Anyway, we did half of a round and then handed it off to the next duo to take over on that. It was fun. It was really loud in terms of the music, and I think the third round of drinks we went up to get, I talked to the bartender and I realized on the board that listed all of their drinks, there were numbers next to the beers. So there was a hazy IPA that was a number 5, and so it was really loud. So I told the bartender, I'll take a number 5. And held up my hands for 5 fingers, so he could see that. He goes away to make the drink, turns his back to us to pour it, and then comes back with 5 beers. And I'm like, what? I don't know what to do with this at this point. Do I take, I can't take 5 beers. I will be freaking wasted, and that's not what I asked for. Let's be real. So I told him, I was like, no, I just said 1. He's like, you ordered 5. And I was like, what am I going to do with 5 beers? I was like, I'll take 2. I could take 2 of the beers that you placed in front of me. And then he got really frustrated and just said, just take 1, and he took the other 4 and put them behind him. And I backed away slowly to end that little altercation. But why are the numbers next to the beer if not to make it easier for the situation where the music is so loud where you can't hear the other person talking? Funny other story with the bartender, as we were leaving, my buddy was like, hey, okay, you can go close out my tab. I got the first 2 rounds, he got the second 2, and then he's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So he went off to the bathroom, and I went to the bartender and got the last round of our drinks and tried to make it easy. He, my buddy John likes White Claw, so I just was like, okay, 2 blackberry White Claw. Let's just keep it easy, right? And then I said, let's close out that tab for my buddy John. And he's like, there's no one, there's no tab with that name. He's like, do you have an ID? I'm like, he went to the bathroom, he'll be back. So I had to wait until John got back, and then he gave his ID, and he's like, oh, Jonathan. And I'm like, what? Okay. He didn't realize that there was the John is short for Jonathan. What is this? The last name was confusing. It wasn't more of than one of Jonathan with this last name, John or Jonathan. So I don't know. Really interesting situation. I don't know that I'll be going back to the Emporium anytime soon, but it was good to get out and have a couple drinks with my buddy and stay in the city. I also went out to lunch with my dad and my family on his side. We went and had pizza, sat outdoors, and that was it's just great weather to do this sort of thing. So it was good to really get away. And then one last update before we bring in our guest Doogie, and that is, if you're familiar with the program, might know that I'm a bit of an exercise freak. I have, since COVID hit, I've become obsessed with the Peloton, and I'm on it all the time. I should really be on it right now, but I'm avoiding that for the moment because I'm also obsessed with podcasting and doing this program. I love it. But I was doing a ride this morning. I started it, and Monday mornings I generally will listen, have a bunch of podcasts that download to start my morning off. So I'll just, do a just ride. I'll start and I'll just go for 30, 45 minutes, whatever. Well, I started a ride, and then I like to turn the metrics off on the screen. So I don't know how long the ride's been or how long, how far I've gone, how many calories I've earned, any of that stuff. Right. So I turned all that off, and I accidentally quit the session. So I go back and I start it up, and then I go in on my phone and delete the ride. And then I saw there were two very short rides. So I was like, I don't know what the second one is, but delete that too. Well, it turned out that I deleted the 45-minute ride before I even started it. Like as I was starting it, right, I deleted it, but I didn't know it was gone until after I stopped the ride and the ride didn't exist. So I don't know, as a metrics person, someone who's striving for numbers, I'm trying to hit 15,000 minutes on the Peloton this year, and I should be able to do it somewhere in the November timeframe, I think, if my estimation is right. Then, 45 minutes is substantial, and also I'm doing an exercise challenge through work for that requires the watch. So the activity was gone. I was a bit perturbed about it, but what can you do other than get back on the bike and keep riding some more? So that's what I did. So that is my update. Like I said, I have a good chat with Doogie White about his music. Double album is coming out, which includes As Yet Untitled, and we're going to dig deep with Doogie. So here's my interview with Doogie. Hey Doogie, how you doing?
How you doing, Steve?
I am good. I am good. How are things in your part of the world right now?
Well, it's been raining. It's
but you got the rainbow going, so you're good there, right?
Yeah, that was actually taken. I took that the day I heard that Martin Birch had died.
Really?
Yeah, and it was just it's just about 2 miles down the road from where I live, and that's what it was. And I thought that was a nice wee thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. So. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Obviously, got a lot to talk about with your music and the new double album coming out and everything. But I'd like to start from the beginning. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about the music you grew up with and what your parents listened to?
My parents didn't listen to music. The only records that I remember having. We didn't have a record player until I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and we had Frank Ifield, who was an Australian yodeler, and we had an Elvis compilation, and we had a band called the Ink Spots. But we never had a needle, so we could never play anything. But the first single I ever bought was Daydream Believer by the Monkees.
Okay.
That was that, and on the same day, so we must have got the record player that day. And my mother bought Engelbert Humperdinck's "Please Release Me."
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, great voices like Tom Jones and Engelbert and Frank Ifield and these guys were in there very early for me. But it all kind of changed when I saw David Bowie do Starman in, I think, 1990. It's my mother. Hang on, please. There we go. Mother has now been silenced.
She knew we were talking about her, right? Like,
oh, I know,
like, yeah.
I know.
She's like,
that's
I introduced you to
don't
music.
tell them anything about Engelbert. So that changed everybody over here in the UK. That day when Bowie came on, and I don't know if you've ever seen it. David Bowie, Starman, Top of the Pops, right?
Yeah.
Now I remember it in Technicolor, but we didn't have a color television there. But that's how amazing that performance was, and it completely changed every teenager's life that day. And, you know, and we all went out. We all come into school on the Monday morning with our Ziggy hairdos.
And I know you and your brother Ian, like, you wanted to be like a backing band for Bowie, right?
You know, that would have been great. We would have been good at that, him and I, to be backing singers for Bowie. That would have been terrific fun. I mean, that would never have happened. I mean, the closest we ever got to that was we worked a little bit on some, did some vocals for a guy called Kevin Armstrong. And Kevin was Bowie's guitar player at Live Aid.
Oh, okay.
And he got in touch with us, and we went down and we did some backing vocals for that. That's the only connection that there ever was, and I haven't seen Kevin since that day.
Yeah. Have you seen Bowie live?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw him live on the Serious Moonlight tour when he had the sort of big blonde blob. I saw him on the Sound and Vision tour, where he mostly sang in front of a screen of video stuff, and I saw him with Tin Machine, which was interesting as well. So yeah, only 3 times.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my favorite concert I've ever been to was actually a celebration of Bowie's life. You know, afterwards, where with Gary Oldman and like 70 musicians.
All right.
Yeah, it was here in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and it was like 3.5 hours of Bowie music. It was amazing, and I mean, and we got to interview a lot of the musicians that played as well. You know, including like Holly Palmer, who was in Bowie's band, and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it was such a cool, you know, insight into people paying respect to his music. So, I mean,
absolutely, I went in. Tony Visconti and Woody Woodmansey did a show in London. It's a while ago now, maybe 8 years ago, and they did the whole of The Man Who Sold the World.
Oh wow!
And they had guys from Spandau Ballet and guys from Soft Cell and guys from that sort of 80s that were influenced by Bowie. They had him. They had them there do that, and then maybe 3 years ago I went and saw Mike Garson doing it. You know, because he was the master keyboard player. You know, Rick Wakeman gets all that because he did Hunky Dory. You know, but it was really the Aladdin Sane stuff that when Mike Garson came in, that just completely changed the Bowie sound to something spectacular and glorious.
I'm sure it was really awesome to see that live, huh?
Yeah, no, it was really good. You know, because I just love that sort of freeform avant-garde stuff that he does. Garson, he plays it so well, and he had a couple of other guys from Bowie's last band, but and just a variety of singers, not trying to be Bowie. Yeah. You know, females, but it just worked, and all these songs, just hearing them in their glory was magic.
Yeah. So kind of where we're at right now. I mean, you were supposed to travel to Japan and tour Japan when COVID hit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
3 days before 3 days before we were due to go, the Japanese pulled it because of the virus, and that was it. I mean, I did as many gigs last year as I usually do in a week.
Wow. Yeah.
We were only 6 gigs last year. That was it.
Yeah. That's crazy. And so
2 with Michael, 2 with a band called Demon's Eye, and 2 with a band called Maiden United, and that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. And so what does it look like now with starting to reemerge? I mean, I know you have a tour planned with Alcatraz. I mean, like, are you like just like booking everything you can right now?
These Alcatraz dates were originally the dates that were for the last album, Born Innocent, that came out. That was the last one that Graham did, and the first one that Joe Stump did. And these are the dates that have been booked since then. So they're from 2019, 2020. And rather than cancel them, you just postpone them, and they get moved to somewhere else, So we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's not good over here in the UK at the moment, because we have something called the Delta variant.
Yeah.
And now they've found the Delta Plus variant.
Oh yeah, like it's a positive thing, right?
Yes, and that's even more transmissible. But the vaccine seems to have been working. There's a lot less people in hospital, but it's down to government rules and regulations, and the government are not letting people go indoors to these clubs. I mean, you can go to Silverstone to watch Formula One racing, 140,000 people.
Of course,
you can't stick 250 people in a club.
No.
So it's stormy waters over here just now, politically, and because the guy who's the health secretary, his name is Matt Hancock, right? Which is unfortunate, because he's just been caught in flagrante with his secretary, one of his advisors.
Oh, okay.
So it's all kicking off over here. So who knows? I mean, it changes every week. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I just had a whole set of Russian, Ukrainian gigs pulled. It was orchestral stuff with Uli John Roth and Graham Bonnet, of course, and Marco Mendoza, Ross the Boss. Different folk going to Russia to play for a month with orchestras, but they've had to pull that because the Russian rate of virus has gone up substantially now as well. So it's not going away. We're going to have to learn to live with it.
Yeah. I'm hopeful here in the States that, I mean, things have gotten a lot better and things are seeming good for now, but you never know how it'll change, right? I mean,
no.
It's concerts.
You don't know.
Yeah.
It can't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it's not going to recognize borders. It's not going to recognize whether you're rich or poor, or whether you're black or white or Japanese. It's not. The virus doesn't care about such things. All it does is cares about living and replicating itself. So we just have to try and be guided by the people who we believe have got our best interests at heart, until we find out they don't have our best interests at heart, and then there'll be trouble.
Yeah. So at what point for you did you know? I mean, you've been doing this your whole life. At what point did you know that you wanted to make music as your sole kind of passion, as your sole driving force?
When I used to go to a church in Motherwell, and on a Saturday night we had what was called a youth fellowship, and there was table tennis, and there was badminton, and there was darts, and there was all this kind of stuff. And we had 2 ante rooms, and one of the ante rooms was for boys and the other one was for girls. And I would go in there with my friends, and they would bring in their latest album. You know, one of them was into Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Genesis. And I would take in my Bowie album. And then one of my mates brought in an album called Come Taste the Band, which was by Deep Purple. And I'd never heard anything like it in my life. I just thought the vocals were soaring, and I thought, wow, that's great. So the next week they said, oh, if you like that, you'll like this. And then it was Burn, and I was like, my God, that guitar player is amazing. They go, oh, you like that? You'll like this. And it was made in Japan. So over the period of about 2 months, I got totally soaked in to Deep Purple, and that just changed. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in that band. You know, I wanted to play music like that. Then I saw AC/DC, and I thought, my God, is this what it's about? This is brilliant. And that's just how it was for me. And it was Deep Purple, Whitesnake, Rainbow, AC/DC, you know, Black Sabbath, you know, Sabotage was a big album for me. Because I came to it all kind of later, because I was Bowie and I was busy playing football or soccer, as you call it.
Yeah.
And climbing trees and trying to be a cross between Evel Knievel and Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I had plenty of other things to do.
Yeah. And so do you remember getting your first guitar? Did it come pretty naturally for you?
Well, no, my guitar playing is appalling. I'm a terrible guitar player. You know, I'm a shocking guitar player. And I wanted to be a drummer, and then I found out I had no rhythm. And then I wanted to be a guitar player, and I found that I had no coordination. And everybody else was better at it than me. You know, Guthrie Handley and Graham Muirhead and these guys were much better guitar players than I was ever going to be. And somebody said, well, we've put a band together. I've heard you singing at the church. Why don't you come and join the band? So I did that. It lasted about 5 or 6 weeks. And that was the first time. I mean, we were only 15 or something at the time. But that's the first time that anybody suggested that their girlfriend manages the band. And I saw, I quit then. I just, I can't be having this. I didn't know that was going to be a feature of my career going forward, you know, that, and that was really kind of it, to be honest with you. And I enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed singing. And I like to, you know, I've never had singing lessons, unless you count singing along with, you know, Lou Gramm, you know, and Coverdale and Hughes, and you know, there was never any room for Rush or Judas Priest, and because I didn't have anything like their voices, you know, this high end stuff. So I had nothing to learn from them, because it was a bit like Klaus Meine as well. It was that was too accented for me. So I went with guys that I could relate to and who that I could copy.
Yeah. And
then it just all goes into a big pot, and it just comes out however it is, you know. I mean, I can still draw on my Bowie when I need to.
Yeah. Well, you have a really powerful voice. I mean, so what was that process like for you to find your voice and you know, and bring it to the environment where you're able to kind of record music and play live on stage? I mean, because your voice is pretty unique.
Well, I don't know about it being unique. I mean, but we didn't have any monitors. You know, I'm playing against 100-watt Marshall and a 150-watt Carlsbad Stingray bass amp and a drummer thundering away behind me. I had to just open it up and find ways to do it, and I've got better at not blowing myself up. I suppose it's a bit like an athlete. If you come out the blocks and try to do 100 yards really quickly for the first time, you're just going to injure yourself. So because over the last sort of 20 years or whatever, I've been I've been busy. So it just naturally, the muscles and the development and and understanding what my voice was doing. That's why I always go to sound checks. I always go to sound checks because I want to hear what it's going to sound like, and I know what my voice is going to do because I'll do 4 or 5 songs at sound check. Yeah. And except when you're with Yngwie Malmsteen, where you would play for 2 hours before the sound checks would be 2 hours long.
Wow. Okay.
And it would be great fun. But I knew that my voice, what my voice was going to do during the show.
Yeah. What is something you learned from being in La Paz, that you were able to kind of take forward in your musical career?
Well, with the guitar player in La Paz, Chick McSherry, liked what I did, right? And he came to see me play in a town hall. And unfortunately, we had drunk too much before we got on the stage. And so he went and searched for somebody else rather than me. But he couldn't find anybody. So he came back to me and he just said, listen, you've got to pack this shit in. If we're going to do anything, you've got to pack this shit in. When we go on stage, professional, that's what we've got to be. So that's kind of what I learned. I learned that, there's a time and a place for your partying, and it's certainly not before or during the show.
Had to learn that the hard way, I imagine, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he would have just punched me out.
Yeah.
He would have just walked over and punched me out. So that was a good discipline to learn, because I didn't know any rock and rollers really, and any of the ones that I did all played at the same level in bars and bowling clubs and miners' welfare centres, and it was free beer. You didn't get paid much, but you got warm beer and cold pizza every night. Yeah. So it was just a thing. It was just a thing to do when you were doing 3 1-hour sets. Just have another beer, But thankfully, that's all gone now, and so it was an eye opener for me just to see, how the difference between I perceived it and what the reality actually was.
Yeah. And so tell me about the impact of Iron Maiden's music on you and your life. Like, what have you taken away from Iron Maiden?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, I think if anything, it's their live performance. I mean, I just think Bruce is an incredible frontman, and the control, the way that he controls the audience, whether it's 1,000 people or 25,000 or 75,000 people, it is immense. I mean, even if they don't understand his language. I mean, I went to see them. I was down recording in Argentina, and they were there, and I went along to see them, and there was 55,000 people there, and they don't. A lot of them don't speak English. And I'm sure that Bruce's Spanish is limited, but my God, they hung on every word. And I always just thought that was a great gift that he had. And the energy of the performance and the energy, and the way the whole thing's run is incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about Maiden. And if I might be answering your next question, or maybe you don't even know, but I mean, I had to learn 22 Iron Maiden songs over a weekend to go and audition for them.
For the audition, yeah.
Because I didn't know. I'd seen them a couple of times, but it was never in my CD player.
Yeah. What was that process like for you to audition for Maiden? It sounded like you got very short notice and you were called in.
Yeah, I got Dickie Bell turned up on the Friday night, I was getting ready to go to Scotland, and he told me I wasn't. And I just had to sit down and just delve for the next 72 hours to get as much into these songs as I could. Some of them I got down quite well, some of them not so much. But Steve or whoever felt that I had done well enough to be invited back for a second time. So I was much better prepared the second time when we went in. But they gave it to Blaze. They gave the job to Blaze. And, you know, and then of course in 1999, normality was resumed when Bruce and Adrian came back, you know, and they went on to be even bigger than they had ever been. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible what they've managed to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about getting the call for Rainbow and kind of when that conversation with Richie around being hired on.
Well, I got called into a band called Praying Mantis, right? Their singer had gone off at again, 2 weeks notice, very short notice. And so they asked me if I would go to Japan with them. Now, I'd never been to Japan. So even as we were flying there, I was still learning Praying Mantis songs. And we got there and Purple were playing at the Budokan. And so I went with a Japanese promoter, and we went and saw Deep Purple. And when I came back, I had no work at all. And this was Joe Lynn Turner was fronting the band. And a mate of mine at that time was working for the record company. And I asked him if he could get me a ticket for the gig, and he said yes. So he got me a ticket for the gig, but he also, and this is what changed my life, was he also got me a party pass for the after show party at the Marquee in London. And I went along there with a cassette with some work that I had done. And I saw Colin Hart, and I recognized Colin from the back of from a program or from an album sleeve or something. And I just said to him, look, if Richie ever needs a singer, here you go. And I'd put my phone number on the and my name and my phone number on the tape and on the box, and gave him it. I never thought any more about it. And then we were having a party one night, and the phone rang, and somebody picked up and said, Richie Blackmore's on the phone for you. And we had a chat, and he said, I need to hear. I haven't heard anything from you for the last 3 years, so I need a recent photograph, and I need some new material for you. Now, at that time, I was doing sessions for songwriters, but it was all very lightweight stuff, you know, and some country things. So there was nothing that was really suitable. So one of my housemates and my former bandmate, Alex Dixon, and I sat down on the Monday and decided to write some songs. And we wrote one called Come Taste the Band, which was the only, at that time, the only album that Richie hadn't played on. And we did that, and I did the Coverdale and the Hughes parts, and he played like Tommy Bolin. And I sent it to Richie with a photograph. And within a week, 10 days, I had a ticket to fly over to America, and that was it for me. That was the pinball bouncing around for the next 30 years, 25 years, whatever.
Yeah, and Come Taste the Band. I mean, you use that as the first song on your album, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really cool. Okay, so I want to ask you a little bit more about Alcatraz as well, and kind of, I know you talked to Graham Bonnet, and he wanted you to take over for the role, but you had no idea, right? Like, I mean, that wasn't your intent at all.
No. Graham and I have toured a lot together. You know, him, Joe Lynn Turner, and I went to Japan, I think, on 2 or maybe 3 occasions together. When I was there with Schenker, with Temple of Rock, Graham opened up for us with the Graham Bonnet Band. We were in Michael Schenker Fest together, you know, so we go back a long way, Graham and I. He actually stayed at our house one time and broke my staircase.
Really? What happened?
I just came down and he was standing holding a piece of wood. I said, "What's that?" He says, "Your staircase is just broken."
It just fell apart.
Well, no, I don't know what he did to it.
Yeah.
God, you know, I'll be sending him the bill. But he came up to Edinburgh and he wanted to go out and have a coffee with me, and we wandered around Edinburgh. And he said to me, "Look, I'm not happy doing this. I don't want to do this music. I don't like this music. I never liked it when I was doing it with Yngwie. I never liked it when I was doing it with Steve Vai, and I'm not enjoying it now." And I said, "Well, what would you want to do?" And he says, "I just want to do the Graham Bonnet Band and play the music that I want to play." And I said, "Oh, fucking hell, man. You know, you're a legend. You know, you're 73 years old. Go and do what you want to do. What will make you happy?" And that was where we left it, you know. And so during the first part of lockdown, Frontiers Records contacted me and asked me to work with a Swedish guitar player called Emil Norberg, right? And we wrote an album together under the project name of Long Shadows Dawn, right? And the album's called Isle of Wrath, and it's a terrific record. And just as I was finishing that, I got a phone call from the Alcatraz guys saying, "Graham's quit the band. We've got these tour dates lined up. You know, will you come in and do it?" And I said, "Well, why don't we just write a new album? You know, if he's not coming back, if he's off doing the Graham Bonnet Band and he's not coming back, why don't we just do a new album?" So that's what we've done. The tour dates got pushed back again. And that's what we've done. And that album sounded terrific as well. So I've been a busy boy.
Yeah. I mean, you got your hands in so many pots, right? And so tell me about the Alcatraz album. How far along is it? I mean, last I could tell you had 4 songs done, but I mean, I'm sure it's much farther
It's
than that.
done, it's mastered. The first video has already been released.
Yeah, turn of the wheel.
Yep, that's already been released. That was the first song we wrote together. And,
Okay.
And I knew when I heard, because they sent me 4 or 5 ideas through, and I knew as soon as I heard it and started working on it that I could do something with the music and what, because it's more, some of it's more metally than I've done before, but then I just, you know, that's when I go back and I think, and I pull something else in. And I'm very pleased with it. So it's sounding really good. It's heavier, and it touches just on different subjects of, you know, of isolation and loneliness, and things that we were all feeling over the last wee while. But I didn't want everybody to be reminded of that. So there's songs of hope and joy and anger and frustration and in there, you know. I tried not to write any love songs unless they were bitter and twisted.
Yeah. And so you have this album. What do you know when it's going to come out? I mean, I'm sure.
I believe it's coming out in October.
Okay.
I believe it's coming out in October. The Long Shadows Dawn one on Frontiers, Isle of Wrath, that comes out in August, and so that'll be coming out. And you know, my whole idea of, I've actually quite enjoyed the writing process this time. It's been good fun because we had time to do it. You know, sometimes it's, we need to write now, we need the album by, you know, and it's like, okay. Yeah. But we had time to do both of these albums, and because there was no pressure to hit any touring dates, because there aren't any, you know, and we moved, the touring dates had moved. So we took our time, and we got both the albums as good as we could possibly make them, and we'll just see what happens. I mean, if it opens up and we can get out to tour, that'll be great. If we don't get to tour, then we have to, I don't know what's going to happen with anybody, you know, because you know, there's no money at this level anymore for making albums, because everybody, you know, the guys that make money now are the guys sitting in corduroys, you know, with their hairs and man buns, sitting in front of computer screens in Silicon Valley. They're the ones that make the money, you know, because the budgets are not there for it anymore. And luckily, you know, the technology's sort of caught up where I can record my vocals here at home, you know, and send it to somebody else who can then mix it in with the other guy's work, which is the way that most of it's getting done these days. I mean, nothing would give me greater pleasure than to go away for a month and sit in a ruined castle or a large house and have the gear set up so you can just go anytime you wanted to do it. And Michael Schenker had that idea when we went to do the second Temple of Rock album, and we did the budget, and it just wasn't going to work. You know, it was, you know, to take people away for a month, you know, and feed them and water them and accommodate them, and it wasn't going to be possible. Yeah. And so the days of those budgets, unless you're Maiden, unless you're Kiss or AC/DC, the days for that are gone now, you know. But we're working around it, and people are still turning out brilliant records. You know, there's some great stuff out there just now.
It's been since the 90s since you have been able to like record in that fashion, right? I mean, so you've been resourceful like this and sending files back and forth and in, I mean, for a number of different projects, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I had to be. I mean, because it was the only way to get out. When I did the Yngwie's albums, I flew to Miami for a month, and I stayed there in Miami for a month and recorded it. And I think because he was still writing the songs when I got there. But it just seemed logical just to be able to write from home and work from home. Yeah. You know, I wish that we had the opportunity to do it like I did it with Richie, but it's just like I said, you know, the budgets ain't there for that anymore. So I've got a good setup here at home. I've got good gear to work with. I don't like engineering myself. I don't like that. And what I would have done for the Alcatraz album, especially, is I would have gone to a studio here in Edinburgh and recorded there once the songs were written. It's a great writing tool, but I would have gone in and had somebody else push the buttons for me, you know. Yeah. But again, we couldn't do that because you're not allowed to. Nope.
You have an album's worth of acoustic songs ready to record.
I've got a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much. It's pretty much. I've got. It's rock music, but in a different way. You know, I mean, they're just acoustic songs, piano songs. You know, so they would need production to do them, but they're all written. Yeah. And they're all demoed up in their simplified fashion, and it would just be a case of, you know, do I put my own money into this? And that's always dangerous, you know. So I don't quite know what to do. I don't quite know what to do with any of that stuff, really. I'm kind of loath to do it, but I'd like to do it. But unless you're very special, you know, there are very special people out there who can manage to not move between genres. But when you're known as a heavy rock singer, that's kind of all people want to hear from you. They want to hear the big riffs, and they want to hear what the guitar player's doing, and they want to hear if you can still hit the high note. And you know, and so I don't know if anybody would be that interested in an acoustic album from me, to be honest.
You could do it for
and
yourself, right? You know, like
well,
I mean,
yeah, I know, but again, it would just be me. It would just be. I mean, I've got the songs. So
Yeah.
if a record company comes along and said, "We'll put you in with a good producer, and we'll make these songs something special," then we can do that. If not, they'll just sit there as demos.
Yeah.
You know, it's. But it would be interesting for me. But you know, who knows?
the songs that you've written in this, I mean, like you said, a lot of your music is not that fashion. So those songs, are you pretty proud of them in their current state? Is it, you know, did it release something for you that's different from all of your other work?
Oh, it would be different. I mean, I look at what Miles Kennedy does with Slash, you know, and then he does his solo album, and it's still his voice, and it's still his excellent songwriting, but it just has a different flavor.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what these songs are. It would still be my voice, but it would still be my songs, but it would just be a different flavor. You know, and Bowie did it, you know, and there's no way I'm comparing myself to Bowie here.
No.
You know, Peter Gabriel did it, you know, and Bruce Dickinson tried it, and it didn't work. I mean, his first solo album, I think, was called First Offense, and it never saw the light of day because it was, you know, it was just, people are not going to be interested in that because, you know, that's not what you're known for, you know. And Ronnie Dio said to me, he said, look, just stick to what you're good at and stick to what you're known for. He says, you know, because this is a genre that it is enthusiastic about its artists and its music, you know, and you won't be allowed to step outside the box, you know. So whether you will or whether you won't, I don't know if it's changed or not since we had that conversation.
Sure. And with all of the different projects that you have, and like wearing of the different hats, like, is that a pretty seamless process for you to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on Alcatraz now, I'm going to focus on this now?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And it has to be. I mean, I've learned it over the years because I've never been in I mean, I was with Michael Schenker for 9 years.
Yeah.
You know, I was with Yngwie Malmsteen for 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And I was with Richie for 3.5 years. And in between that, I had Cornerstone, when, you know, and various things. I like to work. Yeah. I enjoy the work. And especially if the work gets me to go out and play the songs live. I mean, I try to write for the live arena. You know, I would hate to go out there. I'd hate to write a song and go out there and not be able to play it live, you know, or have to have 50 other musicians off stage so it just looks like the 4 of us playing, you know. So it's, I try to write for the live arena. I mean, some of the songs will never get played live, but that's always my ambition, is to take the music out live to the people. And I have to wear different hats. You know, if I'm working with John Steele from Bulgaria, and they're very heavily influenced by the likes of Maiden and Priest and Accept and these guys, that's a completely different hat, you know. Yeah. And, you know, they did one album with Blaze, they did one with me, they did one with David Rees from Accept. And so it's not as complicated, because I just don't take it. If I'm touring, if I'm going to be touring with Michael for 9 months of the year, you know, then I don't take any other work on. Yeah. And I come home for 3 months, and then I'm ready to do something again. Yeah. And I'm ready to go, and I've got my ideas and I'm ready.
Yeah. And so just a couple more questions as we wind down. I want to come back to the double album. You have As Yet Untitled. Tell me about your process of pairing that with the new songs on the second album.
Well, the idea was actually the record companies. I got the rights to my solo album back because it's been out for 11 years. Yeah. And I was approached by the record label, and they said, we want to put your solo album out. do you have any bonus tracks? Do you have anything else we can put on it? And I said, yeah. And I had these 2 songs left over, Small Town Saturday Night, which was one of the acousticy demo-y songs that I had. So I had that, and Dish in the Dirt, which I wrote with Mick Tucker from Tank. But I just kept them back. I didn't know why, but I just kept them back from the album. And they said, and years ago I had done these tribute albums with lots of other players, you know, Bernie Shaw from Uriah Heep, and Steve Overland from FM, and Mickey Moody from Whitesnake was in there, and Bernie Tormey from Gillan and Ozzy was in there. And we just had fun doing all these different albums for different people. We had, because grunge was very popular then, and right. So there wasn't that much live work, and the music industry was changing. It was getting to that sort of turning point, 99, 2000. And so he just said, listen, I've got all these tribute albums you did. How about we pick some songs off them and put it on as a bonus CD? And I said, aye, okay. So that's what he did. I mean, it's quite interesting, because I don't remember doing Not Fade Away by the Rolling Stones. I don't remember doing Twisting the Night Away. I mean, I've never, you know, Let's Spend the Night Together. I don't remember doing them, because we just went in for an afternoon, sing these 3 songs, bye now, and that was it. So that was quite a surprise when I found it, you know. And of course I don't have any of these CDs, so that was I've got the UFO one, and I think I don't remember doing Emerald either, actually. You know, I think I've got the Whitesnake one, and I think I've got the UFO one, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So we just put that. He put that together, and it's quite interesting, actually. I quite enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I dig it. It's really good stuff.
I'm getting to, you know, because I'm getting to, you know, it's one of these things where you're singing someone else's songs, but you've got to try and make it recognizable but different enough, you know. And and it's always a challenge to do that. But then I've been doing that my whole career, stepping in and singing other people's songs, whether it's with Yngwie or Richie or Michael or Tank or whoever, you know. So it was fun. It's fun and it's good. I like what they've done with it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my last question for you is really about when you've come to the States, the shows you've played in the Bay Area. I mean, I know in the past recent years, I mean, aside from the most recent, but you've played the Boardwalk in like outside Sacramento. You played Yoshi's, Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. Yeah. What were some of the most memorable shows that you played in the Bay Area, or a moment that you had here in the Bay Area?
Did we? No, I'm thinking it was called the Roadhouse. I played in Sacramento with Yngwie Malmsteen. Right? Now, it might have been the Boardwalk, but I think it was called the Roadhouse. And we played there, and it was a little outdoor place. Right? And we got about 6 songs into it. And I was standing on the stage, and all these police cars came in, full sirens, and all these big policemen getting out. They came in to close us down because we were too loud.
Really?
And they said, and we had to stop while there was a negotiation going on. And Yngwie said, well, look, you know, you've got 2,000 people here. They're not going to be pleased if you shut us down or if we turn it down. So a couple of the policemen just stayed, you know, doing this, you know, and we just carried on, you know. That's kind of my memory of Sacramento. I walked around the last time. I'm a walker, you know. I go out wandering when I get to places, you know. So I saw the Golden Gate Bridge from the ground for the first time, and I saw, weirdly enough, Alcatraz in the mist, and I've always enjoyed it. I enjoy touring in America because it's so different. You know, the East Coast is so different from the West Coast, and then you go through the Midwest, and, you know, mountain time and whatever other time zones there are. And it's just a fascinating place to go through. But the thing that I have noticed, and it does, because if you're going across Texas, from one side of it to the other. It can take 3 days in a bus, and you always stop off in these wee towns whose names you can't remember. And they've always got a gas station, and then down the road there's a tire place, and then there's an exhaust place, and then there's a scrapyard. And that's a lot of these places, that's all there was in there,
Yeah.
But it's such a fascinating country to tour through. So I'm hoping that I get to do it again sometime.
Yeah. Where's your favorite place in the world to play that you've played? Like,
they're all different, man.
Yeah.
They're all different. I mean, the biggest audiences that short of festivals is Japan. That's
I've heard
7,500, 10,000 seater places. And that's just fascinating because you get to see it at different times of the day, depending on how the jet lag is. You go to bed at midnight, you're wide awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. You just walk out into the neon of Tokyo or Osaka. Everywhere's so different, and everywhere's an adventure. I remember the first time playing in New York. That was a thrill for me, and it was BB King's.
Yes.
But it was a thrill because I love walking around New York as well. And and then I went to, when I played in LA the last time with Michael, we did 3 nights at the Whiskey. These are legendary places, and I think everybody walks into the Whiskey as a musician because it's such a legendary place. Everybody's played there, and you walk in and you go, "Is this it?" Like they used to do with the Marquee Club in London. They walk in and go, "Huh? Is this it?" But these are legendary places. So, I'm happy to play everywhere because there's always something new to see. There's always something new to taste. It's just being on the road makes me happy. Being on a bus makes me happy. I like it.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I'm hopeful that you are able to get back on that bus, get on the road, and play those shows soon because it's been too long, right?
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I've just started doing, because I'm trying to get myself back vocally up to speed again for live work, as we were talking about at the beginning. This is the longest I've been inactive from the live scene since 1984. 84.
Crazy. Yeah.
Because even when I finished with Richie, I joined a bar band. I mean, because again, it was the height of grunge. Nobody wanted a wee Scottish rock singer. So I just joined a bar band and went around and played 6 nights a week in the bars because it kept my chops up and brought some money in.
Yeah.
Then I joined up with Yngwie for 6 years. So it's been a brilliant, magical journey for me, and I do enjoy it, and I do miss it. And I miss going to the festivals and bumping into old friends and things. So I hope it will come back. I hope it will come back, because if it comes back, everybody's going to be ready. And no, I don't think anybody took it for granted, but we'll miss it. We're missing it so much now. It's never to talk about retiring. Because that's been 15 months or 16 months, and I don't know if I never got to do another show again, I would be a very, very unhappy man. Yeah. So we'll do our best.
It'll come back. I'll tell you, a couple weeks ago, I drove 400 miles to go to my first live show in, like you said, 16 months. Just to get out. I mean, it was outdoors at Joshua Tree down, Southern California. Yeah. And I mean, it was just great to see live music again in some capacity. So it's going to happen, and you just got to hang tight. And in the meantime, keep making music and doing what you love, right?
I will. Yeah. So thank you for your time. That was very, very kind of you.
Hey, thank you for your time, Doogie, and look forward to the album coming out as well. So,
all right, man.
Yeah,
take care.
You have a good one. Put out those acoustic songs. It'll be great. Okay.
Well, Well, I might have to go and rewrite them now because the last concert I went to, and I actually travelled because when they were playing over here in the UK, I couldn't get to see them because I was away with Michael. But the last gig I went to was a band called Dawes.
Yeah.
Dawees.
Yes.
Oh, God. What a voice, what songs. I love that. I love that. So I might have, these songs that I've written will work in that style.
Yeah.
That sort of studenty basement style. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Take care,
Doogie,
man.
you have a great one, okay?
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much.
That was the interview with Doogie White here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes me to the final segment on the program, which is the music news. All right, I have a couple of stories about what's going on in the music world right now, and I'm going to start with the feel-good story from Ringo Starr from the Beatles. He is inviting everyone to spread love and peace on his birthday, and that's part of his annual Peace and Love birthday initiative. He's going to be celebrating his 81st birthday next month, let's see, it's a tradition that he started in 2008 on July 7th, the date of his 68th birthday. After being asked by a journalist what he would like for his birthday, that was his answer. So he's inviting everybody to post or say hashtag peace and love at noon their local time on July 7th to fulfill his birthday wish and encircle the planet in a wave of peace and love. And he shared a video message saying, I'm inviting everyone who wants to join the Peace and Love celebration for my birthday at noon your time, wherever you are, 7/7/21. You can post it, say it, you can even think it, but it would be really cool if you go peace and love at noon on my birthday. So let's spread peace and love on my birthday. Come on, everyone. And so usually on his birthday, he meets with fans wherever he is in the world. It's a tradition that he started back then in 2008. When he convened with fans and friends, in front of the Hard Rock Cafe in Chicago, passing out cupcakes and joining the crowd for peace and love at exactly noon. Last year, the pandemic prevented an in-person event, and he moved the celebration online, hosting Ringo's big birthday show, which featured unseen concert and unique performances by Starr, Paul McCartney, Joe Walsh, Ben Harper, and Dave Grohl, Sheryl Crow, Guy Clark Jr., Sheila E., and more. So he'd like to keep it creative. This year, he's just asking you to tweet it, I believe. So think of that on 7/7 for Ringo Starr. In some not as great news, Duncan Campbell has left UB40 and retired from music after a seizure. The band is going to be announcing their new frontman imminently, and his latest health struggles come after he suffered a stroke last summer and took time to recuperate before the band's planned rescheduled tour. And in a new statement, Campbell confirmed he was to step down from recording and touring dates with UB40 and retire from music. He, unfortunately, due to continued ill health, I have reluctantly decided to retire from the band so as to focus on my recovery, he wrote. I'm very grateful and would like to express my sincere thanks to the fans for all their support during this time, and indeed throughout my time with UB40. He concluded, the band have my full support going forward, and of course, my very best wishes for the future of their new singer. And our best wishes to Duncan as well on his continued push to get healthier. So good luck to him. France is the bearer of the next news story, which is they are going to lift all COVID-19 restrictions on outdoor events this month. Fans with vaccinations or proof of negative tests will be able to attend events at 100% capacity. And that's from June 30th. Events in the country will be able to operate at that capacity. Current attendances for outdoor events are set at a capacity of 5,000 people, but those will be removed from next week. And indoor events will still operate at 75% capacity. Let's see here, what else? So they're looking to open things back up in France, which is great. In interviewing our this week's guest, and next week, who's from Ireland. I'm hearing things are not the best in that part of the world, but it sounds like it's getting better. All right. Next story is about Nandi Bushell and Matt Helders. They've recorded a jam together. So this is the Arctic Monkeys drummer, paid the young musician a visit at home. For those that don't remember Nandi, she's the one who's became friends with Dave Grohl and was covering her songs and freaking badass at the drums and all other instruments. And she's been recognized by many other musicians. She's like 11 years old yet. And so Matt Helders of the Arctic Monkeys recorded a jam with her. So let me see here. What is this? She's engaged in a drum battle with Dave Grohl, received praise from Tom Morello, Queens of the Stone Age, Royal Blood, so many more. And Helders paid Bushell a visit at her home to record what the child star has described as a jam together. She shared a video on her Instagram story yesterday telling her followers about the plans for the next day. And then she showed a video of Helders leaving her house. Thank you for coming. I had so much fun, she told who thanked her for the drumsticks in his hand. She gave him drumsticks, I guess, huh? Today was epic, she captioned one of the videos. And so she says there's an interview and jam coming soon, which is pretty cool. I'm really impressed by Nandi and what she's been able to accomplish. All right. Excuse me. Last story for the program, of course, has to do with Mr. Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. And he's admitted Nirvana's goals for Nevermind were to emulate Sonic Youth and then buy their own apartment. The Smells Like Teen Spirit rocker has opened up on the group's iconic 1991 record, and he was blown away when they turned up to record at Sound City. He told Uncut Magazine, when we pulled up to Sound City, as much of a shithole as it was the most legitimate recording studio I had ever been in at the time. Knowing the history of that place, we thought, now this is the real deal. That being said, nobody thought that it was going to be what it became. We thought, hopefully we'll get to achieve the success like a band like Sonic Youth and each get to have our own apartment. That was the extent of our ambitions. And Nevermind was the first album David played on since joining the group, completed by Kirsten Novoselic and Kurt Cobain, and he still can't wrap his head around the band's rise after the release. He said, well, I still haven't figured the whole fucking thing out. What I do know is that once we signed to the David Geffen Company and made a video, it started feeling a bit more professional. And they continue to grow and expand from there. Really exciting stuff. Well, that is our show for today here on Concert Pipeline. I want to thank Doogie White again for being on the program. And next week on the program, I believe we're going to have Dylan Rockoff. It's an interview I did several weeks ago. He's in the process of doing a performance for the program as well. But we also have Dave Fury on the program coming up as well, an artist from Ireland, like I mentioned. Had a really great chat with him. So that's the show for today. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. I'll catch you next time.